What is going on, everybody? It is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlip, and once again, I am joined by my co-host, Alan the Cantastic, and our third that is here very sporadically, Tanner, the Texas gentleman.
Thank
What
you,
is
Mike.
going on?
What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, things are happening in life.
As it goes, my friend. As it
Yeah.
goes.
So today we are here to discuss probably I don't think I am far off by saying one of the best AEW shows of the year. And that being AEW All Out 2024. Once again taking place in Chicago. And just to touch on that for a second, they need to move All Out and they need to move Double or Nothing. We've said it a billion times. I'm not saying it again. But
Chicago's getting a lot of love these days.
well,
hey, good for them.
I mean, the main reason is because that was Tony Khan's like second home or something growing up or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he thinks it's like one of the best wrestling crowds, which is not wrong, but it'd be nice to have two of your biggest pay-per-views in different cities. So overall, I absolutely love this show from top to bottom. Of course, there's going to be some stuff that we are not a fan of, and that's okay. But I think overall, this is going to be a very positive review, because there was a lot of storyline progression, new big storylines that started, and some clarification on some things that we were very puzzled by around All In that are becoming more clear. And as far as starting off the show, we had a couple of pre-show matches that didn't really matter really at all. The first one was the Acclaimed taking on the Iron Savages, and this match was literally for no reason at all. It was just to get the Acclaimed on the show here. And yeah, the Acclaimed won. Nothing really that special about the match. The second match.
Well, sorry if I jumped back in here.
Sure.
I had to step away for a bit. Did you mention that the Costco guys made a little cameo on during this?
I would not have done that if you had given me a million chances to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know them either. I thought they were actually from Toronto at first because I have a city north of Toronto that is full of Italian Americans, and I thought these guys would fit right in. But yeah. The famous TikToker, the Costco guys, they were actually before I think even the pre-show they were being asked like who's got the boom and all that stuff, but I think they were
they were using their catchphrase to
Anyway,
and Renee was asking them about certain wrestlers, and she would list a bunch of wrestlers and be like boom or doom, and they would say boom for everybody except MJF. It was very repetitive and very not for me.
Yeah.
Also in this match, I mean, not really, during the entrance, Iron Savages made their entrance, and Jack Jameson, who was the one that prompted that interaction, forgot to say the Iron Savage's name during his intro. So he didn't even introduce the team that he was representing. So that was funny. But yeah, this match didn't matter. It was just give Acclaim another win for no reason. The next match, which just came out of nowhere because Hologram teamed with these other two guys on Collision the night before, was Hologram, Sammy Guevara, and Dustin Rhodes taking on the Premier Athletes. Match was fine. Guevara and Hologram did some flippy stuff, and Dustin Rhodes tried to do flippy stuff. and that team won. Not surprising there.
All I'll say is I just find it amusing that 5 years into his AEW career, that Dustin Rhodes went from being just the body guy or the sort of like the enhancement guy to winning a bunch of titles.
Mhm.
It's very
And now he has every ROH tag belt.
yeah.
Well, both of them. Both ROH tag belts with 3 different partners. The next match was Bang Bang Gang going up against the Dark Order. Supposedly this match was changed. I think the Dark Order weren't the original opponents, or the Bang Bang Gang wasn't the original opponents. I don't remember what. I remember hearing something about that, but this match was, again, just fine because both of these teams are great. We kind of talked during this match about how the Dark Order has really fallen off. They had a good, decent run in ROH like a year ago, where they were feuding with the Righteous, and that's about it. They haven't done anything really at all since, unfortunately, losing Brody Lee and not being associated with Hangman anymore, which is
Yeah,
sad.
I would definitely say that the last time that they were really relevant was when they did the big tag team match with Hangman opposite Kenny, leading into their
Yep.
title match, or
Yep.
or months before their title match. But I mean, even when they brought Stu Grayson back, people thought that was going to be like a
Yeah.
not a revelation, but it was going to help things, and that didn't move the needle at all
And
either.
and then
and Stu's gone again.
and then he just yeah.
Yes.
Well, first he went to the Righteous, then he disappeared again, and now he's gone again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope that those guys get something in the future, because the 3 guys that they still have in that group are great in every aspect of what is needed from guys like them. Like Reynolds and Silver are a great tag team who have great combination offense. And Evil Uno is, I don't know if this is on purpose, is trying to be like the next Mick Foley. Like and he's killing it with like his character work, and like he's mastered the Brody Lee paper throw. But you don't get to see that unless you watch Being the Dark Order, which I don't think anybody really does anymore.
The only real interest the Dark Order has done in the past several months, maybe up to a year, is when they did like these short skits. I think briefly they took over the Being the Elite channel or the show, and they turned into Being the Dark Order.
They're still doing that.
Yeah. Oh, they're still doing that. Okay. So the only interest I had in them was when they still brought on Brody Lee Jr., and then they brought Amanda Huber as Brody's widow on the screen to do stuff, and I was like, that's funny stuff.
Yeah. So the Bang Bang Gang obviously got the win. Not surprising there.
Yep.
Those guys are super over, like to the point where there was a period where everybody hated the Guns just because they were only here because they were Billy Gunn's sons. And now it's like I would much rather see them than the Acclaimed. Like times 100. Like, and I've been beating this drum for a while. Anthony Bowens should just be a singles guy at this point because he's an amazing wrestler. But I hope that once Jay White is back, we'll see something new for the Bang Bang Gang. I don't want to just see them stuck in the trios forever. But at that point, like when Jay does come back, Jay can just be the singles guy. And that's fine, because that's the way it should be anyway. But yeah, not a lot to talk about here. Bang Bang Gang obviously got the win. It wasn't that surprising. So I think this happened right after this. Tony Schiavone goes up on the stage and for no reason at all just introduces Sky Blue because she's the last like person from Chicago that works for the company, as far as I know. She is unfortunately injured, hurting her ankle in a match with Hikaru Shida on Collision last month that resulted in them stopping the match during a commercial break. So she has a cast on her foot, crutches, and they just interview her to see how she's doing after a month. And out comes Mariah May, who was originally promoting her championship celebration to take place on the pay-per-view because she said she wanted people to pay to see it. And that did not happen because she came out here and was just being a cocky heel, and she kicked the foot out of the crutch and started beating Sky Blue with the crutch. And then Queen Aminata made the save to set up their match on Dynamite, which had an obvious result. But it was a fine match.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm disappointed. I paid my $50. I didn't get my Mariah May championship celebration, and now you're telling me it was going to be it could have been on for free anyway. But now you're going to move it to when Grand Slam, because she went on Dynamite the week after and said, "Yeah, I want my my friend Mina Shirakawa to join me for the celebration." So now it's going to be on TV, I guess.
Yeah. So this was kind of the only thing that progressed the story on the pre-show. To a degree. I mean, we know that she's just waiting for Toni Storm to come back. Because instead of building somebody new, yeah, they just got to continue that feud, which is fine, I guess. But I was kind of hoping Toni Storm would take a back seat from Mariah for a while.
Okay, yeah, but I think they are, because it seems like the plan is to have Tony have a rematch at Grand Slam Australia? Or
I guess I mean that would make the most sense.
But now I heard that Toni Storm is going to challenge for the IWGP Women's title against Maiwa Iwatani.
Mayu Iwatani in October.
Right.
So
they're not like rushing to rehash this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't want Mariah to be like caught in a rut while she's waiting for Toni Storm to come back. She can have other feuds.
Well, that's part of the problem, unfortunately, is that everything that's been built for Mariah so far has only been geared towards Toni Storm and maybe a little bit of Shirakawa, but you don't really see too much interaction with her beyond with anyone else beyond that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses now that she's broken out of this very long-term story arc that she has.
Yeah, I mean, and she came out of one of the best built stories in AEW in the last couple of years. Like they built this for months and paid off the way. Yes, it was very predictable, but it was done the right way, and people were happy to see the result because Mariah is great, and Toni Storm had her time as the champion. So does Toni Storm win it back when they go to the Grand Slam in Australia? I don't know, but I just want to see Mariah in something else in the meantime. The last match on the pre-show was another multi-man match, a three-way trios match that, again, was for no reason at all. And as we talked about privately, the Beast Mortos just teaming with random people whenever he feels like it, even though he was teaming with the Kingdom not even a week or two before this. So we had all three members of the Kingdom, the Undisputed Kingdom, against the Beast Mortos, and Shane Taylor Promotions, and Action Andretti and Top Flight. Another thing that we kind of talked about previously that isn't really a big thing, it's just a little nitpick thing that we have mentioned. Everybody in that group of Top Flight dresses the same, including Leo Rush and Action Andretti. However, Top Flight is only Darius and Dante because they don't say Top Flight for all of them. They said Action Andretti and Top Flight. So the group is literally Top Flight featuring Action Andretti, Leo Rush, and Layla Gray. Why?
Well, in my opinion, the group should be Layla Gray, accompanied by Top Flight, Action Andretti, and Leo Rush. There you go.
Why is everybody else wearing the same outfit?
It's okay. Like, you're wearing the same outfit. You've got this hot, beautiful girl coming out as your flight attendant, quote unquote. Just make the whole group Top Flight. Like, Action, I mean, the two big things he's done since beating Chris Jericho was, well, the only things he's done since was beat Chris Jericho on a debut and being associated with Top Flight. And he looks like a natural in the group. So make him part of the group.
Yep.
Leo Rush,
Yep.
probably could do some better stuff as a singles guy, but for now, he looks like he fits in the group too. So if you're gonna have a super group, then just do the super group. Yeah, and I think Hannah, yeah, you were asking whether the Beast Mortals was formerly known as Black Taurus. Yes, it was. And my opinion on Black Taurus, Beast Mortals is that, yeah, he's kind of randomly jumping around and just teaming up with random people. Make it a thing where he's like, I'm just offering my services to the highest bidder, right? And I feel like in this role, he needs a manager figure to sort of manage that. Like a Prince Nana saying, "Oh, you want the Beast Mortals to team up with you? Give us $10,000, and Beast Mortals will be with you for this match or this match." And but
we probably I don't know cause you to lose.
Yeah, I know. Somebody should be doing that.
He would be a great partner for
Roosh.
Kill Switch or Luchasaurus. I think.
Frankly, I actually know the perfect person to be Mortals' manager, because now that with the Lucha Brothers going to WWE, Alex Abrahantes has nothing to do. I mean, Commander. Yeah, he's with Commander, but like, how much farther is that gonna go? Bandito's still on the shelf. Gravity's still out. Like,
Gravity doesn't work there anymore.
Yeah. Okay. He was only there for kind of 2 cups of coffee.
Bandito, perhaps.
We don't even know if Hologram is Hispanic, so it's like the perfect fit. I mean, Alex was always the hype man. Why doesn't he now just be like a hype man in a more heelish way and be like more of the money guy?
Yeah. And the Kingdom were literally only in here to get the win because Roderick Strong is the only person in this match in a storyline. Which should have been my reasoning to pick him to win. This is the only match I guessed incorrectly. So, yeah, the Kingdom, Undisputed Kingdom got the win. This match was fun. Again, it just didn't matter. It was for nothing. It was to get these people on the show, which they seem to be doing a lot on these shows. Oh, you've been having a great run. You have great matches. Here's a pre-show match that doesn't matter. Which I guess is... I think it's better than having a 2-hour pre-show of talking. Because at least you have wrestling on the show. Watch the pre-show if there's 2 hours of talking. So
yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways.
I really just I hope that there be something for these people.
Hello, I'm back, and
well,
I feel like Mike has frozen himself. Oh, for a second.
Yeah, there he goes.
Okay. So was there a moment when Tanner had to be solo?
No, not yet.
So It says that I'm here, but the connection keeps like going in and out. I don't know why.
Sometimes if you
but-
are on Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
if, the connection will drop and go back up.
No,
It's really
unfortunately that's all. Unfortunately, that's all I have.
Yeah. No, same.
So,
we're all in the same boat here.
okay. So yeah, again, this match was fine. Did what it was supposed to. All right. So now we're getting into the main card, and unfortunately, there might be some moments of silence or lag throughout the show. I can't seem to figure out why that's happening, but it is what it is.
You can edit in post. We can edit in post.
Yes. So the main card starts off with one of the best matches on the show by far, and you know, normally we talk about all the time like how like Will Ospreay is so good that if you don't have him start off, if he does start off the show, then nobody's going to be able to follow him, which is why I think they didn't do that. So the first match on the card was MJF taking on Daniel Garcia. This match absolutely ruled. I like it blows my mind that there's still people out there that don't get how good of a wrestler MJF is. They still think that he's just a mouthpiece, and then he goes out every big show and has one of the better matches on it. And it's crazy to me that that's even a thought. And then you got Daniel Garcia, who we've all known is going to be as good, if not someday better than MJF in every other way. Like, both of these guys are great. Both of these guys are very young and are on the upward trajectory to be top faces in any company. The result did not surprise me. And the reason
Really?
the reason the result did not surprise me is because Daniel Garcia has not renewed his contract yet.
Right, that.
But there was a lot of great back and forth throughout this match, and a lot of great technical work, especially by Daniel Garcia. But MJF again is no slouch when it comes to that stuff. He has great transitions. He has great mat work. And this ultimately came down to just a wrestling move, which I thought was fine, but because the story they were telling was that Daniel Garcia wanted to hurt MJF because MJF hurt him.
Right. And while MJF won the match, the point was made after the match, which is probably the highlight of this match.
Yes. While there was a lot of pile driver teasing, a lot of I'm going to drop you on your head teasing, because again, that's what MJF did to Daniel Garcia. That kept him out for as long as it did. And this match ends up just ending with a standard like jackknife pin that looked kind of weird when it happened, because right after the 3, Daniel Garcia was on top of MJF, which was odd. But when I watched it back, it didn't look as odd as I thought it did. But after the match, MJF tries to extend the hand, which is something that he's done before.
I thought it was weird, actually. I thought that was like, after all of that, you're gonna shake the guy's hand, which I mean, you know the way MJF operates, right? If he extends a hand and he wants to shake your hand, sooner or later he's gonna try to kick you in the nuts, right?
Yep. I mean, and that's exactly what he tried to do.
Yep.
But of course, Daniel Garcia knew it was coming because he knows how MJF operates, and he catches it and does it himself, and then he does the pile driver from the middle rope, which they executed perfectly. And I think the reason that they did this angle and also
Okay, so I think Mike got cut off again, but I think the reason they did this angle was the way they did it is because Daniel Garcia has not actually signed a new contract. He has not indicated where he's staying the company. So this is a very good point that Mike had previously brought up. But back to this segment. The Daniel after Daniel pile drivers MJF off the turnbuckle. Wow, this is actually going very well. Now, after MJF gets pile driven off the turnbuckle, and Daniel Garcia basically starts shaking MJF by the neck, and then gives him a big wet kiss, and then proceeds to just leave through the crowd, which is, I believe, how MJF did this exact same thing several months ago when he did the same thing to Daniel Garcia, when he basically pile driven him off the top, kissed him, and then he walked through the crowd as well. Interestingly enough, on the subsequent Dynamite after All Out, obviously MJF's off of TV. He's injured or he's just out of commission.
He is filming a movie. Is the word on the street?
AKA on vacation of some kind. Daniel Garcia, obviously nowhere to be found. Interestingly enough, unlike a certain cowboy that we're going to talk about later, who was on TV subsequently. But yeah, so we got the situation where one of your best younger talent, very technically gifted, could probably be one of your future pillars of this company. Uncertain future in AEW, Tanner.
A little bit. Quick note on the match. I thought that when I look at the card, the main card as a whole, there was not really one match in particular that really jumped out at me as like, this is a solid opener, right? I guess if you had to pick one, it would be this one. However, because both MJF and Daniel Garcia have this kind of more methodical, more technical pace, if that's not really your taste of wrestling, or if you are someone who prefers the show to kick off with some really fast-paced action, something to really grab your attention and get you geared up for the show, it's not going to hit you the same way. You have to be really familiar with what's going on in AEW and what's going on with this story in particular to really get the essence of what it is. That's going to run contradictory to what Mike described, of course, but just one man's 2 cents. I still think it's a really good match, but first match on the card, I think it could have been a little bit shorter, perhaps, as well. It ran about almost 25 minutes, which is a significant amount of time. But again, if you're here for the wrestling and strictly for the wrestling, then that's a banger of a match. Two really great young talents, as you both put it, really going out there and showing their skills.
Yeah, I've been writing my match of the year for 2024 list, because at some point we're probably going to record a match of the year-end episode. And I've got this match on my list so far for the storytelling and for this sort of just hard-hitting, kind of really brutal sort of back and forth, and for just the way it ended, right? Like, I don't know subsequently what happens with Daniel Garcia. I'm factoring that out of the equation for now, but as a match of the year candidate, this is a pretty solid. I'm not going to say it's number one, but it's on my list, so it's definitely something to watch out for. So let's, do you have anything to add before I move on to the next? Okay.
I was just gonna say I would definitely agree that it's probably gonna be on a lot of people's top 10s, top 20s this year for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so next match is I wouldn't say this was random, but I think it just speaks about somewhat the state of the tag division in AEW. Surprisingly, it's the Young Bucks, our EVPs Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, defending their titles against the Blackpool Combat Club combo of Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. The match was about 15 minutes. I would say the things that stood out to me was that Claudio seems to be playing the Andre the Giant / Big Show character in this match, as the three other men are much more high flying. We've got all the Young Buck classics from the great combos and the isolation of Wheeler Yuta was expected. He was sort of the weaker link here. And Claudio basically went around and just acted as though he was like Braun Strowman or the Big Show. If the Big Show could run like 60 miles an hour and do European uppercuts flying through the air. But, you got a guy who is big, but he's also fly a little. So it's a pretty good combination. Match sort of, sure. I mean, it ended as I expected. Young Bucks getting the pin. I didn't think Claudio and Wheeler being the trios champions was going to add another set of titles already to their collection. As we'll see later on, the Wheeler's association with his group will kind of like on the fence at the moment. But Mike, we're just on the Young Bucks Blackpool Combat Club tag team title match. Yep. Anything you wanted to add on that?
I apologize once again for my technical issues. But yes, this match went exactly as I kind of expected. Claudio was too much for the Young Bucks to handle. Like, I think he could have beat them by himself if he wanted to. But the majority of the match was like the Young Bucks having a hard time taking out Claudio. Because, not even realizing it, Claudio is giant compared to the Young Bucks.
Yeah, they're not the biggest guys. I mean, this. I don't think that the result was ever in any doubt. I'm not going to hide that I'm not the biggest fan of the Young Bucks, but I do think that Claudio was able to really show a lot of his skills and assets on display. Obviously, you got to see his size, his strength, his speed. Yeah, he was just a physical beast in this match.
Yeah, I love Claudio so much. I am so happy that he's finally like being put in a big storyline that we're going to talk about later, and has a proper AEW title and not an ROH title. Because even though that's great, and he had never been ROH champion before, this just feels different because he's finally getting to get his flowers, basically. I think he was getting him before in AEW just because he was finally being used to his potential. But I think there's even more that he could be doing, and I think we're going to get that in the near future. But yeah, the Young Bucks being the tag champs has not been great this time around because they haven't been defending the belts. They've defended the belts 3 times since April. That's not a lot. And I'm hoping that with this tournament that they're now running, that whoever wins it will be the champions and defend the belts more frequently.
Are you talking about the Casino Gauntlet?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they did it. They did that on Wednesday.
Yes, I misspoke. I meant that they.
And this goes to, and I was making this point, I think, before you hop back on, but the tag team division strangely is not being booked to the way I guess we would expect it to, as in the past.
No,
because in the past you had all these great high quality tag teams, and technically on paper now you still do. But just to tell you what the Casino Gauntlet winners are, it's Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. Because he did a thing on Dynamite when Don Callis asked for a favor.
That's right.
Even though Will Ospreay said he's not going to be with the Don Callis family anymore. Kyle Fletcher has been one of his closest personal friends.
Yep.
And it's like an almost sort of a version of Aussie Open against the Young Bucks.
Yes.
So you're gonna, yeah. So again, one of your earlier points, you're like, why are we putting existing champions in matches for other championships?
Yep.
So once again, you've got Will Ospreay competing for a title when he's already a champion.
Again.
So, I mean, I looked at that Casino Gauntlet and it was like, I was more interested in the Outrunners getting a title shot. These Outrunner guys.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, I think they're starting to catch on. These kind of like Hogan-esque 1984-esque Hogan-esque guys that look like a throwback to the 80s.
Yeah,
I was like, the fans.
Sorry. I said tournament and I misspoke. I meant to say gauntlet.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I mean, they even acknowledged when Don Callis said that he was cashing in his favor for Will Ospreay to be no longer in the Callis family, and this is what the favor was. And Don Callis even said in that segment, "We need you because you never lose a Casino Gauntlet when you're in one." Which is true.
He was right. He didn't.
And he did not again. So, I also, Private Party wasn't even in this match. They're just there getting beat up and not being used to their potential at all. So yeah, they really need to turn the tag team division around. Having grizzled young veterans there is a good start. I don't know if they're, again, it's not been confirmed if they're signed, but just having them, again, we talked about this on the All In review, just having them there is good, no matter how long they're going to be there. So yeah, I hope that is in the works, that we're going to take the tag team division seriously again, and that we're not going to give championship matches to people who A, don't need them, or B, lose all the time. Because that has been a more frequent thing in AEW that I don't like, because that's something that WWE does quite frequently. And I hate it. I hate it so much. But yeah, I mean, obviously Grand Slam, having that match, having Will Ospreay in that match is a big deal. But again, it's like, can't he just defend his own belt? Please?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the step that I think a lot of people really wanted. I think that there was certainly a little bit of speculation that maybe we would see a new tag team in there. I did see, or like a new signed tag team rather, that we were going to get like a debut of some sort. And to y'all's points as well, the day of, I was actually seeing a lot of like people tweeting about the Outrunners as well. It seems like like they're getting a really nice ground swelling of support. But they went with Ospreay, who they've positioned really well to be their top guy. So it's it might not be the result that a lot of people wanted, but I think that it does make sense from a positioning your top guy kind of point of view.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens as far as the tag team division goes. Moving on to the next match. And
speaking of Will Ospreay,
let's talk about the best match on the show, which seems to be a very frequent occurrence, talking about Will Ospreay and the best match on the show. So this match was made official in Pac earned this title shot at the end of June. And of course didn't get it until now because of said stuff we talked about earlier, where Will Ospreay was just going for the world title. And that was a month after winning this belt. And then he just was randomly defending it against Daniel Garcia and randomly defending it against this guy and that guy. And Pac was just sitting there doing Pac things. So he finally gets this match, and wow. Just wow. Like, I mean, we knew this was going to be a good match. And even the little build that they did in the 2 weeks to build to it was great, because they were talking about how Will Ospreay would always, when he was coming up in the business, was always saying that he wanted to be the best British wrestler or the best British high flyer. And people would always say, well, that's great, but are you going to be Pac great? And I think obviously he surpassed that now, but he still kind of has that feeling because he heard it his whole career. And man, these guys just absolutely killed it in every aspect of absolutely killing it. Like, they told a story in the ring. They did a lot of anything you can do, I could do better spots. They a lot of high flying, obviously, that's par for the course, I think, with these guys. But again, like, they even like went a little more technical than both guys normally would, I think. And I think Will Ospreay has definitely been making that a thing in his offense more frequently, of being more technical and less flashy. But just this match is perfect. I think this match is perfect. I can't even find anything wrong with it. Like,
it's a very solid match. It's a very, very good match. If I was to probably try to give it a synopsis, I would say it would be the antithesis of what MJF versus Daniel Garcia was. Whereas that was a little bit more, again, methodical, technical. This was not to use a pejorative term, but it very much was a spot fest, right? There was a lot of high flying, a lot of big moves. Obviously, Will Ospreay is certainly among, if not the best wrestler in the world right now, from a singles competition standpoint. He's a human highlight reel. His work is often compared to that of AJ Styles for very good reason. But yeah, I mean, I would say if like this for me would have or should have been either the show opener or the show closer here in the middle of the card, especially right after Young Bucks tag team match that kind of turned me off a little bit. I think that this was a good way of picking things back up. And obviously Pac is amazing as well, right? Like, that guy is a genetic freak. So it's really, it really is a good match. And one that I would recommend for sure. As Alan pointed out earlier, there's definitely people making their lists of match of the year right now. And this is definitely going to be one that's going to be on a lot of people's lists too.
Yeah. I'm going to have a hard time comparing this to Danielson with Will Ospreay. Because that was another one that I kind of just, like, as soon as it happened, I was like, that's match of the year and nothing's going to come close. but this is pretty close. I mean, this Osprey and Swerve, Saber and Danielson in Japan. But yeah, Alan, what were your overall thoughts of this match?
I mean, as a Will Ospreay match, I expected the pacing to be the way it was. The one part I liked was just in the middle, out of nowhere, they were stood facing each other, and Will puts his arms behind his back, and it's like daring Pac to hit him in the face. And I'm trying to remember, unless I'm thinking of another match and I mistook it by mistake, and like Pac also kind of was daring Will to hit him, or was it? But then they just kind of paused, and then they just did this thing where they were just like facing each other, and Will's daring Pac to hit him in the face, and you can just kind of sense the intensity here, because unless you paid attention to much of the British wrestling environment and knows the history that like Will Ospreay is pretty much like sort of Pac is the precursor to a Will Ospreay, and so
Yep.
Yeah, you understand why the history behind this match was happening. But and that in that moment it was like that sort of just culmination of like the past generation versus the current one right now. I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I mean, it's really hard to rank like match of the year candidates and maybe just not have it completely populated by Will Ospreay all over the place. But
yes, and that is another thing we've talked about, and I think when we do our matches of the year, I'm going to have a separate list with less detail of just the best Will Ospreay matches. But I just wanted to call out some spots from this match because a lot of them, I mean, there's a lot of them, but some of them were worth talking about further. They're fighting on the apron, and Will Ospreay hits a hook kick, and then is gonna go for the Os cutter on the apron, but Pac catches him into a deadlift German on the apron, and Ospreay just like folds up like an accordion.
Oh yeah,
that was a sick spot. There was the the German suplex exchange inside the ring when they were going at each other. And Ospreay goes off the rope, and Pac hits a snap German, and then Ospreay hits a kick off of that and goes for a power bomb, but Pac quickly turns it into a Hurricane Rana for a near fall. Poison Ranas for days in this match. Like, and both of and at one point when they were just really tired, Ospreay hit one, and his shoulders were also down for a pin, so it would have been a draw if that was the finish.
Oh yes, that's a good point. I was like, I saw that. It was so fluid the way it just ended, and it was like, oh yeah, it was almost like a double pin there if that happened.
That was that 2003 Triple H Shawn Michaels finish.
Okay.
But yeah, there was just so much, and Ospreay got the win by fighting off a move from Pac into a Styles Clash, and then following it up with a Hidden Blade and getting the win. As far as I know, he never hit the Stormbreaker in this match.
No, I think he attempted one, and it got ducked out of it.
Yeah, but yeah. Overall, this match just, if you haven't, I mean, if you're listening to or watching this and haven't seen this match, go watch it. Go, it's amazing. And again, we kind of talk about who's going to follow that match.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe the best women's match of the entire year.
Yeah. As I mentioned, match of the year. We're doing a match of the year at some point, and I had to put this down. I mean, I was like, I don't remember any other women's matches that could have topped this, and that includes the matches with our champions in them. So,
well, I mean, I would say probably the best North American match. There's some Japanese ones that you probably haven't seen that
I
are.
I would agree, but in terms of this show, definitely like this is one of the best matches. So it's Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander in a Chicago street fight because you're in Chicago.
Yes.
But and it was a little cliche to begin with because it was like all this because of Stokely and I was still wondering why they turned on each other. And I made a little remark in the middle of the match and you kind of poofed it off, but like,
well, I was just making a joke.
Okay, but it would be more interesting, right? If they like suddenly just stopped and like look at Stokely and they're like, "Why are we fighting?" They should just kick Stokely's ass and then walk out hand in hand with a rainbow over their horizon. Everybody's happy, But no, we got the standard, beat the shit out of each other, and wow, they beat the shit out.
Yes, so Willow made this a street fight because she has had the most street fights of any woman on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And this match could not be for the CML Women's Championship because that title is not allowed to be defended in this type of match. Time of recording, Willow no longer has that belt. But this match was just, and this match I would say you can also call a spot fest, but every spot was part of the story. It's like these two best friends or former best friends that just want to hurt each other. And every sequence was just like put together well. It never dragged. It never felt like this was going for too long. It just was a great match. And there was a lot that happened. Very early, they go to the announce table. Then there was a swanton attempt onto a table, and it looked like Chris landed full tailbone on that one, so that had to suck.
So yeah, if you talk about that table spot, it was so awkward the way she tried to land on Willow.
Oh yeah, and Willow got out of the way.
Rolled out of the way, but Chris crashed through the table, but her legs still hit Willow
in the face. Yeah. Then there was a pounce into the barricade, which was amazing. They started fighting up the ramp and got a bunch of weapons. And another table spot, a spear off the stage into the two tables. Then we started fighting back in the ring and thumbtacks, and a lot of people were wondering why Chris Statlander didn't wear like traditional street fight clothes for this. And I think she was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And you're going to see those thumbtacks sticking everywhere. Because she did a split into the thumbtacks. And then she got back up and got thrown into the thumbtacks again. So she has thumbtacks everywhere. At some point, they get a chain with some wrist clips, and because it's not a chain match, they're not.
This was like near the end.
They're not required to put this on, so the referee is not supposed to help them. But Chris couldn't figure it out, so she asked the referee to help.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, did this just turn into like a dog collar match or like a chain match? Because it looked like they found CM Punk's old dog collar chain from his match of MJF left under the ring from years ago, and they're like, "Oh, let's use this piece of let's use this prop for added effect.
Yeah.
Did you mention the light tubes?
Oh no, I forgot about the light tubes.
So can I just regale us? So they're fighting up on the ramp. At this point, Stokely's being an annoying little prick, and he's just like goading on Chris. And then, I think it was either Willow or Chris that went to the back and pulled out like a cart of like items, and then they went for exchange. And then Willow just suddenly had these light tubes in her hand and just smashes Chris over the head with them. And then she starts stalking Stokely. And at that point, Stokely just runs away. He's vanished for the rest of the match. And I think he got some flack from some other like managers, even like Hio Don Callis was like, man, you don't leave your man in the middle of a match. What the hell are you doing? It's like, I mean, I was like, where the hell did Stokely go? Did he just disappear? I was like,
yeah. But
yeah,
this
light tubes.
match...
The light tubes were. I feel like those light tubes were like, I don't know if they were altered because they did not break the way that I would expect light tubes to break.
They were definitely. They definitely did something.
Instead of shattering into powder, they just kind of broke like glass. So it was like,
yeah, they definitely did something
to
lighten that, which is fine. It still looked great for what it was supposed to be, and again, like this is a thing that we like talk about a lot. Some of the best matches in wrestling are always are between two people that are best friends in real life, and I think that was this again. But yeah, Chris gets the win, which I think she probably needed it more than Willow, because Willow has kind of been having a lot of bigger matches lately and been in bigger spots as far as like on the card and stuff. And Chris hasn't really done much since losing the TBS title. She was at the whole basis for this story was that she was just playing second fiddle to Willow. And she was upset that when Willow won the TBS title, a championship that Chris never got pinned to lose, that Willow didn't just give her a title opportunity. Which is something that a friend would normally do. So, Tanner, what were your overall thoughts?
Well, thanks, Mike. I gotta be honest. This one really wasn't my cup of tea. I've felt for a while now with a lot of the times where we have a women's match that is a hardcore match or a street fight or no holds barred, that kind of thing. Longhorns just scored a touchdown, by the way.
Oh, good for you.
That I feel like ever since the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker match, it's always about how extreme can we make this, right? How much blood can we get out of this? How far can we take this kind of match type? And I don't always think it's that necessary to really go through light tubes or having a woman do the splits over a pile of thumbtacks and that she gets tacks in her inner thighs and all these other things. That to me, not necessarily my cup of tea. But hey, if you're somebody who does like the hardcore style, or is a big fan of women's wrestling, or you like the GCW style of wrestling, I can definitely see how this one's a good one. The storytelling is really, really good. Obviously, like you said, it's between two former best friends, two best friends in real life. But yeah, I just didn't. This one just didn't connect with me, unfortunately.
And that's absolutely fine. I think that this is something that we haven't really talked about that much, and it's like not everybody's gonna like everything, and that's okay. Like, and I mean, going off on a sort of a tangent here, but like, obviously, I don't like everything that WWE does,
Sure.
and I don't mean I don't even like every single thing that AEW does. I wish I did, but
Yeah, and I think this is a good platform to have civil conversations about things that people can like and not like,
and
without it
and
resorting to
and I don't
you
have
know.
to call you a name just because you don't agree with me. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I fully expected it, but yeah.
Yeah, secretly, me and Tanner actually hate each other.
No, I didn't think that you would. Just wanted to, obviously, like, you know, for me, again, not my taste, but it's awesome knowing again that we have this platform, and I hope that for all the listeners out there, you can kind of heed this kind of example because all too often these kind of conversations around what people like, what people don't like, ends up going into really ugly directions, especially online.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that y'all enjoyed it. Not my cup of tea, but hey, that's life. That's everyone's different. Everyone's got different tastes.
Yep. And that is completely okay. And um interestingly enough, and I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but this match and the next match that we're about to talk about are both exactly 15 minutes.
Mm.
Like to the
Very,
T.
very
Like
surprising.
I don't know how they even pulled that off, but again, that might not be official, but um so the next match is a match that I don't think anybody was kind of in doubt of the result, but it was still a lot of fun. It was a four-way match for the Continental Championship. The champion Kazuchika Okada defending against the Alpha Konosuke Takeshita and two members of the conglomeration, Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe.
Oh, I thought the match was Okada defending against Bitch 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, you could say that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, exaggerating, but yes, 3 actually very credible challengers in this 4-way.
Yes, but I have issue. Okay, so issue number 1: stop putting Orange Cassidy in title matches just to put him in title matches. Issue number 2: why is the ROH champion in this match?
The only person that should have been in this match, which he was Takeshita.
Yes.
That's it.
So Takeshita just came back from Japan and was in the G1 and had a hell of a performance, got to the semifinals. And we all knew that once he came back, it was going to be undeniable that this guy needs to be used more. He needs to be featured. He needs to be a top guy in AEW. And I think we're well on the way of that happening. And this match was further proof of that. But yeah, I need Orange Cassidy to do something else. I love him. He's a great talent. I think he doesn't deserve the flack that he gets from idiots online because he's actually one of the better professional wrestlers on the entire roster. And I just don't need to see him in a title match every 2 shows. And that's what's been happening. And he's been losing all of them. So why are we putting him into all these title matches just to have him on the show? You could have had some kind of personal feud for him going into this. I mean, and I get that things kind of got derailed with Trent getting hurt. Which is not fair to them because I'm sure they were looking forward to that.
Well, Mike, if you wanted Orange to have a match on All Out without being involved in this, the only person that he could have had a match with was with the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho. And this was the first pay-per-view without Chris Jericho being anywhere near it.
Since last All Out. So this match was a lot of fun, as expected. Mark Briscoe doing Mark Briscoe things, jumping off of things, using a chair, and Konosuke Takeshita just proving how he is not even 30 yet and is just amazing at wrestling. The guy's been wrestling for 14 years and he's only 28, I think, or 29. So he's going to be a world champion one day. I am pretty sure of that. But in the meantime, he's just finally getting used because since they put him with Don Callis, everything that they've been doing since he had his 2 wins over Kenny Omega has been getting derailed by injury or things just not working out. And Okada, who has been just absolutely killing it on the character side of things since coming to AEW, something that obviously he didn't need to do in New Japan, because in New Japan he could just be a good wrestler and that was enough, which is enough for me. But the fact that he is killing it as a heel right now and getting over in doing so to another degree is great. And again, I don't think it was in question that he would win, because I think the only other person that had a chance at winning was Takeshita. But coming out of this match, I think, and I fully believe that Takeshita is going to win the Continental Classic this year. He's going to have a one-on-one match with Okada in the finals, and he's going to win.
Yeah, I feel like even at Wrestle Dream, they may even do a match first, and then Okada probably like will slip away and win, keep the title like by the slimmest of hairs,
Yeah.
And then once the Continental tournament starts up, Okada's automatically in the tournament, and then he may make it to the finals, but who knows? There may be a shocker, and they just do a thing where it's like. But I don't see it at this point, because if they want like to have the sort of like finals be Okada and Takeshita at World's End, perhaps, then it would be definitely something they would do. The best way to do it would be like that. Anyway.
Yeah, and there's still no indication of when we're going to get Kenny Omega back. And we kind of didn't talk about this when we were talking about All In, but I think it's pretty obvious to most people that if Kenny Omega had been available for All In, he would have had a one-on-one match with Okada. But yeah, so there's still no indication of when we're getting Kenny Omega back. It'd be cool if he came back and was in the Continental Classic. Because I don't think he's going to pick up where he left off and team with Chris Jericho again. At least I hope not. Yeah, so there's not really much. So the conglomeration and the learning tree are feuding. And they are feuding over $7,000 from 2020.
Yeah. So Jericho's been wearing like this yellow orangish jacket, and by the way, I'm colorblind, so sometimes I can't tell. And I was joking to you guys offline. I think he's wearing that damn $7,000 jacket. And then the week after, he came out. Nope, that's the one. The one that's obviously was white, but now is completely faded out because of the orange juice. Well, talk about a long-term storytelling there. Yeah, so you guys probably saw what happened. Orange did go and repay the $7,000. By the way, Chris Jericho apparently trying blackmail and saying, "Oh, Orange, I have your backpack, and inside it's a photo of your former best friends, 2 of which betrayed you, and one half of whom betrayed you. So why would you care about this photo?
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, and even the logic behind that, the guy works for the same company as you do. I don't think that very specific backpack it matters to him. He could just get another one.
he'd be like, "Hey guys, yeah, I'm just gonna get a new one from Try and Save. So what are we talking?"
That's exactly what should happen. But yes, there. So the thing that happens on Dynamite might be one of the stupidest things AEW has ever done.
I laugh, but then I realize like what damage was caused because
Exactly.
for wrestling fans, one of the most iconic moments, if you know, from the Austin McMahon era was when Stone Cold filled Mr. McMahon's Corvette with truckload of cement, which
Yep.
completely destroyed the vehicle. And that obviously that car is probably like an iconic item that WWE has in their museum. But what Orange did was like, yes, sir, I will pay you your $7,000. Here it comes. But earlier, Chris Jericho had pulled up in a Mercedes or something like that. So you got
Bentley. It was a Bentley.
Yeah, a Bentley. So he's like, Orange says, I've got your $7,000 right here. Next thing you pan over, Mark Briscoe operating a forklift or
I'm sure
which is not always good when Mark Briscoe behind construction.
I'm sure he knew how to do that already, so they didn't even have to teach him.
And you got Kyle O'Reilly hanging on and they come up and it looks like they're about to dump something. I'm like, I was wondering, oh God, what are they doing? And then I realized, oh my God, that's $7,000 in change.
I think it was specifically pennies.
I was hoping just dollars because I don't know. You guys don't have like $1 coins.
We have silver dollars. Yeah,
silver dollars.
So we have dollar coins. They're just not really.
They're just not well. Yeah, they're not very frequently used.
So it's like he dumps $7,000 worth of pennies or coins into the Bentley, so the Bentley is now filled with change.
Yes.
And then Orange hilariously takes out a bill out of his pocket and he's like, okay, hold on. He leaves a bill on the Bentley and then takes maybe 2 coins with him. He's like, okay, we're good. and then you have Jericho in the ring, completely hysterical, as though he may have poured cement into the Bentley. And he comes out, he's like, my Bentley is ruined. My Bentley is ruined. And I'm like, how?
It's just scratched a little.
Yeah.
Also, there was a notable moment during this segment of Chris Jericho talking about telling Orange Cassidy that there's no friends in wrestling and that they're just going to end up turning on you. And when he did that, Big Bill made a face. So they're setting that up in the coming months.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the coming weeks because you know that this needs to go on until Full Gear.
Yeah. Big Bill is organically getting cheered. I think in London, he got his biggest pop at that point in time.
Ever.
And you're like, how? Why? It's like, no reason. It's just fans like what they like, and it just happens, right? So that's happening. Yeah, but like rehashing an Orange Cassidy Jericho feud, it's like, I don't know. Do I really care at this point? I mean, I don't even care. I don't even care now that you've dumped change on his Bentley. It's like,
I care about change being dumped on a Bentley as much as 2 guys having a strap match over a bracelet. So moving on, we're down to the final 3 matches of the show. And this match had the unfortunate point in the show where the crowd started to fall asleep.
Oh, dear God.
Which is not fair because it was a fun match. Again, and this is the same thing that happened at All In. They put Mercedes in the same spot at All In, and the same exact thing happened.
I don't know. I watched that match.
Well,
It wasn't a bad match. It was like it was
No.
okay.
Well, that's my point. It was not a
Yeah,
bad match, but the crowd just wasn't into it because they were tired.
Mm.
well, to play devil's advocate just for a moment, let's keep in mind that the crowd at that point had probably seen already probably 3, close to 4 hours worth of wrestling right then and there, which is a lot of wrestling. I mean,
Yep.
the MJF Daniel Garcia match was almost 25 minutes. The Osprey Pac match was almost 25 minutes. You had a ton of wrestling
Well,
already, and I'm not. And this is just what my perspective. I don't think Mercedes AEW run has gotten anywhere near as good as her WWE run. Just my opinion.
well, I would say there's
Um,
still time for that to.
no, sure. I mean, it's still very early days,
Well,
but
I
I
actually. So I read an interesting stat today.
yeah.
Mercedes' current title reign as TBS champion is now longer than all of her combined WWE championship reigns, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I could definitely see that. Though,
Um,
I mean,
I'm not
eh,
saying that's good or bad. It was just
yeah.
an interesting stat.
No, yeah, I mean, that's definitely good, a good stat for sure. I just don't know if the quality of work is there to match up with the quality of work and you know that
Well,
she had in WWE. And I know that you and I have been critical of WWE in the past as well. So it's not like we're
of course,
you know we're playing one side of the fence or the other.
no.
You know, but I don't think that she has the Charlottes or the Beckys or the Oscars or the the Baileys of the world to have these great matches with. You know,
Well,
like she once had
but
before.
also she hasn't worked like Tony Storm yet. She hasn't worked Mariah yet. She hasn't.
Sure.
I don't think she's gotten in the ring with the better wrestlers on this roster yet.
And
I mean,
that's fair.
Sheeta is in that category. Don't get me wrong.
I was gonna
Yes,
say, you know,
yes.
she is against multi-time champion Hikaru
Sheeta,
Shida, who,
Sheeta is up there. She
yeah,
is rightfully so the ace of the AEW's women's division.
mhm.
And
A and she, you know, she does put on a lot of good matches herself. This is
yes,
her annual title match that she gets, it seems. Um, but,
uh, well,
yeah.
this is her second one in 3 months.
Wow. So, I mean, they're really giving her a big push then.
Uh, well, the story going into this match was after Sheeta earned this opportunity, um, by winning a triple threat, she immediately went to Christopher Daniels and said, uh, "The last time I fought Mercedes, Camille got involved the whole entire time, so Camille was banned from ringside." And this is a thing that I had a problem with. Um, Mercedes, when this happened, obviously was not happy, but she's won matches in AEW and in New Japan without Camille on numerous occasions. And then she says when this happens, "Oh, don't worry, I have a plan." Was the plan just to have a good match? Because there was nothing that happened that warranted her to say that.
Well, that and, you know, that's kind of what she's there for. She's there to interfere in all the matches, right? Like, you know, I think
Yeah.
kind of going back to my point earlier, I think that for this new Mercedes character, you really have to build up how despicable she is,
Hmm.
and you know, that's you know, it's all well and good for Mercedes to win the match on her own, but if you're trying to drive home the fact that not only is she a good wrestler, but she's also, you know, she's also a heel. You know, I think that there
Yeah.
should be, you know, quite a good deal of interference in this kind of match.
Well, yeah, and just the fact that she said, "Oh, don't worry, I have a plan." What was the plan?
Yeah.
Because all you did was win the
I'm
match.
gonna beat
clean.
her. That's the plan.
The plan was, I'm going to win fair and square.
I'm going over brother is the plan.
So either way, I enjoyed this match, and I not to say that it was a bad match in general. It wasn't. It was just that again, it fell into the same problem that Mercedes had it all in, where it was on late in the show, and people were just either coming down from the previous 4 matches and waiting for the final 2 matches, specifically the final one.
Yeah, I will say I agree in that. I it's probably the weakest match on the card, on the main card itself.
Yes.
But it's not a bad match. I will say, if this trend continues of Mercedes being put in a spot where she's having bad matches, not bad matches, but just okay matches, or even if they put her earlier in the card or with a more exciting opponent, and it's still not going well, then maybe we have a problem.
Yeah.
I think that's something worth considering.
And as of right now, we don't know where things are going for Mercedes because she doesn't have a new challenger yet.
Right.
I think we talked about on the All In show, had a hell of a match at the New Japan show against Momo Watanabe, and again, she went into that match as a babyface and won clean, and did not have any setup of a new opponent. She just celebrated for 20 minutes and took pictures with fans. So, like, why is this thing happening over there? And then you have her on this show saying, "Oh, don't worry, I have a plan." The plan was just to win. Like, what's going on here?
Well, I don't know if this explains it, but if your question is why are you playing a babyface on one show company and then playing a heel in another company, I mean, I can say the same for like someone like Steph Delander, who is a heel on the independent circuit on GCW, but then on TNA has been playing a babyface because she's married to PCO. Unfortunately, Steph Delander is going to be out for like up to 10 months because she needs neck surgery, and that was announced on TNA Impact, so she's going to be off for a while. But yeah, but that's an interesting point. Yeah, it's like, why would you bring up like I have a plan and then like just win the match? I'm like, oh, wait, your plan just to like have a good match? I mean, like, I guess that was a plan. It's a plan. It's probably a stupid plan. I mean, if it's true that you were friends with if it's true that the what do you call them, the Renegade twins have been like friendly with Mercedes and backstage, then would have been a good time to bring them on as your stable.
It's a stupid plan for a dastardly heel to have.
Yeah.
Because if you're supposed to be a dastardly heel who has a heavy, and that heavy is no longer allowed at ringside during your match, then you have to find another thing to counteract that. Like a Megan Bayne, for example. Or, as you mentioned, both Renegade twins. Like something. But instead, they just had a wrestling match, which again is fine, and I'm not complaining about that. But that little wrinkle of the story that is actually a pretty big wrinkle because you made it a point to actually put it on screen. Oh, don't worry, I have a plan. Like, no, you didn't. You didn't have a plan. You just won.
Yeah, like if you go on and say, look, I know Camille's my heavy and she's my heater, but I am a former 5-6 time world champion, and I don't, at the end of the day, I can whoop your ass, Shida. So it's like I can do this by myself. That's all you need to say. Like, but if you're telling me that she went in saying, "Oh, I have a plan,"
Yeah.
but it was like you kind of like just leave people hanging, right?
Yeah.
And now, yeah, we don't know who Mercedes' next challenger is going to be. Britt Baker was kind of just like almost like a one and done. Not sure what her situation is.
Yeah.
We had Jamie Hayter come back, but she seems to be locked in a feud with Soraya at the moment.
Well, yeah, she's trying to get revenge for.
Yeah, for like
Uh,
last year getting or like
she was technically put out by the Outcasts, and
Yeah.
she's the only member of the Outcasts that's available.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Mercedes going forward. I'm sure Sheeta is, if she's not still going to be featured, at least on Collision, will be taking a little break again or going back to Japan to do stuff, which is fine. So we'll see what happens there. The next match is the quote unquote co-main event, because you can't have two main events. That's why I said quote unquote. It is the AEW World Championship match, and we're gonna have that conversation of champions getting challenging champions again. Of the TNT champion Jack Perry facing off against the new AEW World Champion, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And this match was made official on the first Dynamite after All In, when Bryan Danielson let the world know that his neck was in bad shape, but he isn't going anywhere until he loses that belt. And he says that he wants to work All Out and that he is accepting an open challenge to anybody who wants to challenge him at All Out. The first person to do so is the TNT champion, Jack Perry. Now, from a storyline perspective, this is the same exact thing as Gunther and Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn has lost a lot, but is the only person who has beaten Gunther. So he has a right to challenge Gunther because he's beaten him before. I don't like that because he's done nothing but lose since. And that's where we are with Jack Perry, other than the TNT match with Darby Allin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that running in contrast to that, it obviously you only have 2 weeks to build something post All In.
Yes.
So it's it's something that's quick and easy that you can say, hey, here's a title match, gives people reason to tune in. And based off of how this show is booked and that we have another main event after this, I think they knew that this was not going to be a headlining match, and I think they were definitely okay with the fact that it wasn't.
Also, it's Chicago and Jack Perry. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't know if I heard that many booing or loud reactions to Jack Perry in Chicago for that event.
I don't either. I think that at this point, post CM Punk, I feel like the people that have stuck around for AEW in Chicago are the hardcore fans that are going to go in. They're going to support Jack Perry, or they're going to they're going to go and chant "Cry Me a River" or "It's Real Glass" or whatever the hell they chant.
Even if that's the case, I'm sure that was an element in booking the match, regardless of how it actually went down.
I mean, perhaps. I think that they've definitely positioned Jack to be, to be on the upswing, right? He's seemingly got this cult following. They always have the cameras backstage when his scapegoat mobile is pulling up, or when he's leaving. I mean, every time I see him, the first thing I think of is that this is Jack Perry is simply just Raven reimagined for today, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't the worst thing for somebody, but Raven was never a top guy himself. And I think there's a lot of similarities between Jack Perry's current character, the scapegoat, and what Raven has or had going on in the 90s in WCW and ECW. Even down to the pose that Jack Perry hits before Danielson nails him with the running knee.
Well,
I think that, as far as this match is concerned, at least, this was certainly Jack Perry's best match that he's had.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that this would be anywhere near, the top 200 matches that Bryan Danielson has had.
Oh no, of course not. Of course not.
But it's fine. It was a serviceable co-main event.
So I think our biggest talking points in talking about this match is going to be the post-match and the thing that happened on Dynamite. But
yes,
as far as this match goes, I thought that they did a great job. Jack Perry is a hell of a seller because he took the Psycho early, like midway through the match, and he went like halfway across the ring. Like he like jumped in the air and like went in a different angle than what the knee was that hit him. It was interesting. I actually really liked that oversell because I think some oversells make the move look better. And I actually really liked that one. There was a point in the match where there was a ref bump because Elite stuff
I guess he took Bryan's kick right in the face. Ugh.
Yeah. So the ref got knocked out, and as soon as that happened, instead of so Bryan's going to do the arm trap stomps that he does, and the Young Bucks immediately enter the ring, like immediately, and hit Indie Taker or a
Tony Khan driver.
It's not the Meltzer driver.
No, it's the TK driver.
The TK driver is essentially the Meltzer driver. The Meltzer driver is the one that has the flip. This was not the one with the flip. But I mean, they still called it the TK driver. But
that's what Excalibur said on the
so after they did that, they went for the BTE trigger or the EVP trigger as it's called now, and they were fought off by Claudio and Wheeler, and at some point, like Danielson would get the upper hand again and win. And immediately after the match,
well, I just want to point out that the win was basically Danielson probably hit a psycho knee, and he's gonna hit him with another one. And as you mentioned, Jack Perry kind of channeling Raven there with the arm pose, Tanner. He just basically sat there.
Oh yes, it was.
I am ready to be sacrificed. And then he's just like,
Danielson hit me.
Yep.
It's like, okay, that's
he gave him everything he had, basically, and he was like, fine, do it again.
Yeah. And then at some point after post-match, I think Jack Perry, all right, this is what happened. Bryan Danielson standing getting his arms raised. Suddenly out of nowhere, Kill Switch / Luchasaurus just kind of appears, takes out Bryan, and then you get this
stare
down between Luchasaurus and Jack Perry, their former tag team partners.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on here? Not really sure.
And then you remembered.
Right. And
then you remembered that at All In, the wrong person won the gauntlet match.
I was like, for a moment there, I thought, is Luchasaurus cashing in? And it's like, oh, wait, no, it's the freaking Father of the Year, Christian Cage. He's the one who's got the contract.
So this is all right. So this is going to be the brunt of the talking for this match. So yes, Christian Cage coming out, flanked by Nick Wayne and Mother Wayne, are walking down to the ring. And while this is happening, Jon Moxley appears. And right behind him is Pac, Wheeler, and Claudio. And Christian surveys the situation and leaves.
I want to point out
And-
that at some point it looked like Jack Perry was knocked outside of the ring on the floor. And I don't know what happened there, but he kind of dissolved into the background.
Well, yeah, I
And I
mean
just
at
found
that
that kind of
at that point he was no longer needed.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean in terms of storyline wise, yeah, he had to leave because this is no longer about him.
Yeah.
But I just thought at one point, did he get knocked out of the ring by somebody? And the only person
I think
left was
I think he just left when Luchasaurus went to attack Bryan.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway.
So the patriarchy leaves and the Blackpool Combat Club plus Pac enter the ring, and Moxley, who hasn't been present for anything about Danielson winning the belt.
Well, Moxley's been gone for months since Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
And he only just resurfaced a few weeks ago saying he's looking for Darby Allin.
Yes, and all of that stuff was kind of puzzling until this past week. So, so while this is happening, Moxley gives Bryan Danielson a hug and kisses him on the head, and all of BCC and Pac raise arms, and while this is happening, Claudio, of all people, hits Danielson with an uppercut.
Which he completely no-sold.
Well, I think this was
really sat up and just looked like
this was a complete shock.
Why?
This was complete shock.
Right.
like to the point where he didn't even feel it. It was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And while Danielson is on the ground in complete shock, looking at Claudio, who has his head down, Jon Moxley comes from behind with a plastic bag and tries to suffocate Bryan Danielson.
We should also add that the point where Claudio uppercuts Danielson.
Yes.
Wheeler Yuta is hugging Pac. And Wheeler's back is turned, so he doesn't see what's going on. And then slowly Pac turns him around. And then Wheeler looks, first he's stunned that Bryan's on the floor. And then when John starts putting the bag over Bryan's head, he's like, no. He's like struggling like a little child, and Pac is just holding it back.
As soon as Bryan Danielson is suffocating, Marina Shafir appears.
Yeah.
And she is basically trying to get all the refs to not enter the ring.
Well, she knocked out the referee the second time Remsburg took a bump.
Yes, and she's fighting off referees and everything. And when they finally get the bag off of Bryan Danielson, everybody leaves together except for Wheeler Yuta.
Well, we should also remember that the fans started a "This is murder" chant, which is not something I've ever heard.
There's been a lot of that recently. There's been "This is arson," "This is murder." AEW seems to be on their own little attitude era thing. So Wheeler Yuta is consoling Bryan, who is unable to breathe. They give him oxygen and carry him out with 4 referees holding each limb.
So for this part, I'm wondering, I know people were joking that they blew the budget so much on the final countdown that they can't afford a stretcher anymore. Yes. I'm wondering if for to make it look real, are you not supposed to lay someone on the back if they recently had
I actually don't
lack of oxygen to their head? So
but
I don't know.
Also,
I feel like if it was, then it's a nice nod to authenticity.
I think they also did this for the angle of showing footage after that happened on Dynamite. So after that happened on Dynamite, to open the show, they show footage of Jon Moxley cutting a promo, basically talking about how things have changed and things are not the way that they should be. And even though you were William Regal's favorite, I was the most like him because I was the one who took action. And essentially saying that, like, if William Regal was here, he would not like the BCC that you created. And so that gave us a little bit more inkling of what was going on. Later in the show, Pac cuts a promo, basically saying like the AEW that you knew is dead, and that they're gonna take over and mold it in their image, blah blah blah, this kind of stuff. So we were wondering why Pac was just okay with teaming with Claudio and being a champion with Claudio and acting like nothing ever happened between them. And it seems to me, and we've talked about this online, it seems to me that there was some kind of plan that was hatched behind Danielson's back and Yuta's back to have Pac in the group after winning the trios belts, and that obviously he knew this was going to happen. And there was that period before this show on Collision, I believe it was, where Pac teamed with Danielson and Claudio and Wheeler and looked at Danielson weird. Like,
I remember that. That was when they were on the entrance ramp. They all came out.
yeah,
Like they came out separately, and then when Danielson comes out, like he gives Claudio like a fist bump, Wheeler a fist bump, maybe a hug, and then he kind of backslaps Pac a little bit, and Pac was just kind of like,
yeah.
I mean, also you mentioned All In when Danielson won the belt, and they're all celebrating, and there Claudio's there, Wheeler's there.
Yes.
Pac is there for some reason because it's his home country. Brian's family's there. John Moxley wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then John Moxley reappeared after All In, and it was just he's doing that
following
thing.
Dynamite when nobody expected him to be there.
Yeah, exactly. He starts saying all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
And then coming out with
and
Marina.
Also we talked about previously about how Claudio was not on board with Danielson doing the things that he was doing, like Anarchy in the Arena, or like they would ask him like, who do you think's going to win between Danielson and Swerve, and he would go no comment. So like something's been building there.
Yeah,
too.
teaming with Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. And so then later in that Dynamite, we got like 3 different segments for this story alone. Moxley has been saying that he wanted to talk to Darby Allin, and I think we kind of had an idea of why after all of this happened. It was because Darby Allin has a guaranteed had a guaranteed title shot at Grand Slam against Bryan Danielson. And John Moxley is trying to get Darby on his side by making him by complimenting him and
No, he's not complimenting him. He told Darby, "You weren't ready 5 years ago to be world champion,
but
you're not ready now. Give me the damn title shot." I don't think.
But he was also saying that like I see a lot of me in you and all of that stuff. And Darby even said that when he was coming up in wrestling and had nothing, he would always try to find a hero to look up to be just like. And John Moxley was that guy for him because John Moxley was never fake. John Moxley was always genuine and real in what he was talking about and what he was doing and how he felt about wrestling. And was cool with that being the guy that he would look up to and want to be like. And now he doesn't see that person anymore. And essentially, Moxley just says that he, as you mentioned, isn't ready. Darby isn't ready to be world champion, and that he should just give his title shot to John Moxley. And of course, Darby is not going to do that. And he goes, if you want to fight me for it, then we can do that. Now, there is a point in this promo where Jon Moxley says that the champion is out of commission and that your title match is not happening at Grand Slam now. So, off of that, there is another promo later in the show that has to do with Bryan Danielson. So after this Darby and Jon Moxley promo, Nigel McGuinness walks up to Christopher Daniels, the interim EVP, and says that he needs to talk to Tony Khan, and it's really important. And Daniels is like, oh, well, you can't ask to talk to Tony Khan in the middle of Dynamite. He's kind of busy. And he's like, trust me, he's going to want to hear this. And so Nigel comes out to the ring after the Mariah match and gets on the mic and talks about his disdain for Bryan Danielson and how everything that Bryan Danielson has should have been his because he was supposed to go to WWE at some point. He obviously doesn't say that specifically, but everything that Bryan Danielson did, Nigel McGuinness was supposed to do. And he didn't. Instead, he lost everything. And it's been eating at him to see Bryan Danielson get all those opportunities that he deserved. And essentially, that the thing that does not make sense here is the reason that Moxley is facing Darby in the first place is because they said that Danielson is not able to compete at Grand Slam. But Nigel basically says that in his pocket he has a piece of paper, a contract, and on it, it says that at Grand Slam, if Bryan Danielson can make it there and get cleared, that at Grand Slam, the champion should at least have a match, even if it's not for the belt, because of how big of a show Grand Slam is. And he says that at Grand Slam, it's going to be Bryan Danielson going one-on-one with Nigel McGuinness. Now, we have speculated that that was going to happen, and we didn't know how or when. Especially after Nigel made a surprise appearance in the Gauntlet at All In. We didn't know how soon we were going to get it, and then we just got it on the next like 2 shows after All In or after All Out. Sorry, and the problem here is that they said the reason that Darby's not facing Bryan is because Bryan's not cleared. So why are you going against that to tease a match that obviously everybody wants to see? Again, it's one of the best rivalries in ROH history. And some of the greatest matches in ROH history. But you just said that he wasn't cleared to face Darby to defend the belt.
So yeah, it's a very obvious contradiction.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to explain, to be honest.
So, on one side, we're getting that match that we always wanted to see again for the first time in 15 years. Was it? Yeah. 15 years since the last time that these two have had a match with each other. And I'm super excited about it. Obviously, I wish I was going. I'm not going to Grand Slam for the first time. Just because I went to Forbidden Door, so I felt that it was okay to miss Grand Slam this year. But I'll have just as much fun watching it on TV, of course. But yeah, so there's a lot going on here, and there's still more we need to know. Obviously, we need to know Danielson's reaction to all of this. We're probably not going to see him until Grand Slam. So yeah. So it seems Moxley is going to be the one to. I'm sure that Moxley's going to beat Darby to get that title opportunity. The question is Moxley the right person to end Danielson's full-time career? I would argue to anybody who says otherwise that I think it would be fine, because not even just because it would obviously get Jon Moxley over as a heel big time. But also it would kind of solidify their relationship as mentor slash apprentice, like both of them, of William Regal. And yeah, I mean, obviously I don't mind seeing Moxley versus Danielson again. I saw it in person at Grand Slam. So yeah, so there's a lot here. Alan, what are all your thoughts of all of that?
First of all, okay, we've unpacked a lot here.
Of course.
So maybe first of all, I would say the AEW is really teetering on the lines of what's appropriate or not appropriate to put on television, and attempted murder is definitely a new standard that has been set here. Very hard to, I guess, in my view, gimmick a plastic bag over the head without actually causing harm.
They found a way.
I mean, I don't know, man. I unless you cut a hole in that damn bag, it didn't look like there was a hole.
I'm sure they found a way.
Like a few seconds of no oxygen, I don't know what that does to someone's mind, right?
I'm sure they found a way.
I am very skeptical of them doing this kind of thing. Even, I mean, let's hope they just do this like once every full moon, and I don't want them to make this.
Well, I don't think it's going to be a regular thing. It was a Terry Funk spot.
I only remember Terry Funk from like 1998 when they had him dressed up.
Terry Funk did this in the 80s to Ric Flair.
Okay.
In their feud for the
world we're talking title. About like territory days before you and I were born.
And basically. Eddie Kingston.
Okay, so I remember. So Eddie Kingston came close to lighting someone on fire. Jack Perry was lit on fire, but I do understand the whole planning and preparation of that stunt.
But my point, yeah. I shared an article with you both that Eddie Kingston said as recently as this past July that he wanted to do a plastic bag spot, and Tony Khan said no. And now his best friend in real life and on TV rival, Jon Moxley.
Yeah, I would love
it. Do it.
I would love it if they just worked Eddie Kingston back into this feud and was like, "See, Brian, I told you couldn't trust Claudio. I was right about Claudio. Mox, I don't know what the hell you're doing." Okay, rest of the spot. Okay, so rest of the segment. Wheeler looking like a little child and just being held back as if he was like a little baby by Pac. It was just not believable, in my opinion. As like Wheeler Yuta is a fully grown man, he's a former singles champion. The idea that you could make me believe that he couldn't like break away from Pac and just like try to save Danielson. Brian
Pac is very muscular.
Tanner, like I don't know what to do here, man. Every time I try to make a
I
don't know if you were on when I was on earlier saying I don't know how you can gimmick a plastic bag to have a hole in it that make it look believable enough. I'm concerned that Brian actually lost a few seconds of oxygen to his head just for that segment. I know
Well,
there's
and
I know there's
I mean,
performance art and doing things for your art, but like
I'm
there's a
sure they
line-
found a way to do that correctly. You can't like they're not gonna ask Brian, "Hey Brian, can you not breathe for a couple of seconds?"
I would say as far as the plastic bag spot's concerned, it is pretty jarring just because it's not something you see every day.
Of course,
Um,
of course.
but to Alan's point here as well. Hi, dog. My dog's trying to jump into the screen. Um, it's hard for me to sit here and rationalize that Wheeler Yuta would not try to wriggle away or try and as muscular as Pac is.
like Pac
To
wasn't
try
holding.
That's not
Pac
a
wasn't-
valid point. I was just
Yeah,
making a joke
Pac
there.
didn't have Wheeler in a
sure.
look. Pac
But-
didn't have Wheeler in a chokehold. He was just hugging him for Christ's sake.
Right. To more
It
of
was
that
like
point,
it was like an arm choke almost, but he wasn't
I don't
applying
think it was an
pressure.
arm choke.
it's ultimately not as big of a criticism on Pac and his muscularity as it is the fact that Wheeler didn't feel the need to wriggle away or do anything he possibly could to try and get to Danielson. Instead, he kind of just slumped into Pac's shoulders and cried. Like,
Well,
how am I supposed to get behind that guy?
I don't, like,
absolutely
like, make it as though Wheeler did break off away from Pac's arms, and then Claudio just bum rushes him with an uppercut or something.
So I
Because Claudio,
absolutely,
as far as I know, Claudio wasn't doing anything during this segment other than stand there.
It would be almost, actually, take it back. It would be more effective if you had just Claudio and Pac out there who aligned with Moxley and Marina Shafir and everything, and then have Wheeler come out afterwards like, what the hell, guys? Like, what happened? And then maybe they try to like push him up the ramp.
I absolutely get both of you guys. I absolutely get both of you guys.
Well, Tanner, to push back on your point for a bit, that would have been hard for me to believe because I'd be wondering why is Wheeler now not coming out there, and it would make more sense like if they did an earlier thing. If they did an earlier thing where they show Wheeler backstage completely knocked out, he was attacked. They don't know by who. There you go. And then they just had like that would explain Wheeler's absence.
Yes.
And
there you go.
And then you could
make it an amnesia spot and have
also
Moxley manipulate him because
and you could have did footage where Claudio was the person that did that. Like
just like the Triple H Shawn Michaels thing from SummerSlam 2002.
Exactly.
So manipulate.
To both of your guys' point about the Wheeler Yuta not being able to get out of their thing, I get it, and it's warranted. But I think what they did was for dramatics.
Oh, absolutely!
And,
they wanted him to cry on
the rest of the whole thing. Moxley's promo explaining himself makes perfect sense. Absolutely, I totally understood that.
As a quick epilogue to this match coverage, Mike, you made you had asked whether or not Moxley being the one to beat Danielson and to take the title would be good. I part of me thinks story wise it does make sense, but at the same time, this doesn't do. I mean, yes, you would take Bryan Danielson's career, but does Moxley need another AEW title run? I don't think so. I think we can be a little bit more creative. I think that's what may be interesting here is that perhaps be on the lookout for the BCC trying to get involved at the Grand Slam show and maybe see Nigel McGuinness kind of aligned with Danielson being like, no, I want to be the guy that ends this guy's career. And maybe they find, strange bedfellows with each other.
Well, since Nigel and Danielson is not a title match, it's very possible that Nigel wins.
It could be.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I just noticed the graphic. It was just a match. It's not for the title.
Well, yeah, I mean, because you can't honestly. I mean, obviously, AEW is guilty of. I mean, every wrestling company is guilty of random people just getting title shots. But I don't think you can logically, in any way, shape, or form, even if it is wrestling, warrant that a guy who just came back for his first match in 13 years getting a title match in his first singles match in 13 years.
All he had to do is come out with that piece of paper saying that he was guaranteed the match. That's all it takes. That's wrestling, man.
I just want it to make sense.
He made sense. It's not the most rational thing, but it does have some logic behind it.
So, yeah.
Look, that match is going to be great, right?
Of course.
Nigel Danielson is going to be awesome. I think
Yes,
we've got
and I mentioned to you guys off air that I am currently watching all of their matches, their series of matches.
Mhm.
And I think I've seen most of them, but it's been a while. So I'm actually really looking forward to watching them and seeing the difference, because obviously they're all taking place at like different points in their careers. They faced each other in singles matches like 9 times in a span of 4 years. So yeah, I am very excited to see that match again, even if it's happening because of some logic gap.
Yeah, and with that, I think we should.
Yes, we're moving
go
on
the main
to
event. And in
the
terms of, if you thought a plastic bag over somebody's head was a little gnarly, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So to set this up, right? This has easily been AEW's biggest feud since Hangman versus the Elite. Easily. And it took a little break in between, like, Swerve needing to face somebody else, and Hangman having a kid. And it was fine that they took a break because you knew it wasn't over. At that point, Hangman had never beaten Swerve, and Swerve had never beaten Hangman without help. So set up this match, and so they did it. They ran an angle where Swerve bought his childhood home, to the point where it was so convincing that people actually believed that he bought his childhood home. Tanner immediately questioned why Prince Nana was involved.
I just didn't know why it was necessary that Prince Nana had to help him buy his house.
Yes.
Swerve. This was coming off the
of
heels
course.
of us finding out that Swerve had a magnificent contract. I mean, I don't know what kind of equity Nana would have in helping.
And me and
Maybe Nana has a real estate license from Ghana or whatever.
He's got part of the deal,
Yes,
man.
Me and Alan.
And he's also a genuine African prince, so he has the access to resources.
Me
that we
and
can only
Alan tried
dream
to
of.
use logic to explain that away. And so yes, they ran an angle where he bought his childhood home, and immediately, like, there was no hesitation by anybody on social media. That house is getting burnt down immediately. And
oh, good God.
that's exactly what happened. So they're having the contract signing for this match on the last Dynamite before All Out, and Hangman's not coming out. And we get footage of him holding a cell phone, filming himself, and he is in the house. Now, there was some people online that tried to create discourse saying that it wasn't the same house that was in the photos. It was just a different angle. It was the same house.
It was the side of the house.
It's the side of the house.
The front side is what you see on the social media, and then if you look at the other the angle of the picture, the patio is actually on the side of the house, which is
Yes.
fairly unusual for
So
a house style.
Tony Khan purchased a house to burn down for an angle.
Meanwhile, who knows?
I
Swerve
can't-
may have bought a house. Maybe he may have bought his childhood house.
Well, yeah,
It
maybe
might have
maybe
even
he
been
did
that
really.
house.
Maybe
But
there's
it
truth
does
in
not
it.
appear to have burnt down all of that house. It may have just burnt down the part that maybe Swerve wanted to renovate anyway. And so they just decided, why don't we just burn it down for the angle, Tony? I don't
I
want to
just
make light
feel
here.
like it's
You know,
I just feel like it's insult to injury with everything that we're about to talk about in the match that Tony Khan just buys a house to burn it down and I can't afford a house to live in.
Yeah.
like that video hits hard for people who are struggling with buying a house. I mean, we have a home like a housing crisis, I think, in your country as well as mine. So
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
and you know, I understand the history of African Americans and their struggles to obtain property properly, and
Look at
you know,
Tony
without
Khan
discrimination.
flaunting his wealth at all of us horrible at all
It's
of us
like-
The
people who
poors.
can.
It's
we
hard
are
when you see a
poors.
black man's house getting burned down by a white dude. So I'm just saying, you know, sitting on a couch drinking whiskey or whatever while the
Yes.
flames are engulfing the whole.
So we don't know if Swerve actually bought his real childhood home, and this was just a house that was bought for an angle, or if it was just an angle
I don't
all
know, man.
along.
It
And-
just looks
Pisses me
so
off.
real the way the video was done. Even Nana's involvement just looks so
Yes.
real because I know how tight they are.
So
They're
yes,
just like maybe
Hangman is at the house, and this is fresh off of Swerve doing another promo recently, talking about how when Hangman was quote unquote suspended, the reason he was out was because he was having another kid. And Swerve said that in storyline, he went to the house while they were leaving to go have that baby.
ugh.
And yeah. So a lot of people thought that Hangman's actions were kind of warranted. But in storyline, they were driving home that arson is probably worse than breaking and entering and not taking anything. Because I mean, on commentary, they were like, "Oh, Hangman Page has crossed the line, and this is not the Hangman Page of old." And yeah. So so that was the lead up to this match, and they said that this was going to be the main event, and that both competitors were not allowed to leave their locker room until the match time.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that we talked about offline was Alan made a point to say, hey, maybe this show will end at 11. Boy, were we wrong about that.
Oh man.
Because this match didn't even start till 11:35.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, my bad. We'll leave it to me to think that AEW will let me go to sleep on time, but
Yes.
yeah. So this, I mean,
Saturday.
the animosity that built up so much so that this match was basically on the books. It doesn't count because it was booked as a lights out, unsanctioned steel cage match. So they even made a point to commentary to say that our last actual official main event is the world title match, because what was about to happen, AEW is not liable for anything. The referee's just there to make call the decision.
So
These guys do what the hell they want to each other.
Alan, can you earmark that point for me? 10 minutes from now, 5-10 minutes from now. I want to make sure
that it's an
I want to make sure that we get back to this.
Okay, that's
this is very important.
Okay,
yes.
I will earmark that. In about 10 minutes.
So I made a point, and I don't know if this is Tanner's point, but I made a point in chat of saying that if AEW does not want to be held liable for this match, then why are they promoting it?
That's one part. That's one part that's really interesting. Yes.
It's like, hey guys, yeah, we're not liable for this, but please watch this. please watch. This is a
Please.
big time match.
So we're not responsible for this, but please pay us for it.
Yes.
Well, there's that, and though that's not my point,
Yes.
here's something even further. Look, do we have to cover the match itself? Because at this point, you should know it's very violent. It's a very violent cage match. We are going to talk about some specific spots, I'm sure.
Of course.
But to Mike's point, gosh, not only is it being promoted, and all this, but it's just, I'm sorry, just go ahead.
You know what? Can I make these points before? Can I make these points before Mike gets into?
I love this, Tanner.
Details. I just want to go back.
I'm flummoxed.
I want to go back to the
Tanner.
house. I want to go back to the house for a minute because during the ring entrances, Hangman's entrance video was just him sitting in front of the burning carcass of the house. And then when Swerve came out, he's wearing a jacket with a picture of the burning house and I think pictures of his children on his pants. And then at one point, they were still talking about the house in the middle of the violence of the match. And Tony Schiavone says they would burn down the house and it was a really nice house. And I was just like, it was a really nice house. And I just kind of like started laughing in the middle of all this just violent bloodshed. That was like, it was a really nice house. That's a very funny point to bring up.
I remember my point being exactly that they're cool with burning down this house. They're cool with arson. Whoever the producer is, they're letting the cameramen get away with someone doing breaking and entering, burning down houses. But hey, guys, this match, we can't be held liable for it. We don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, they made a
$20
point
by $20.
In storyline. They made a point to let us know that Hangman was the one filming it. Obviously, we know otherwise because it's a produced show. But
somebody's got to put the feed into the television.
And they also made a point that's saying like Tony Khan pulled some strings to like keep Hangman out of jail.
The reason that Hangman was not arrested was because Tony Khan used his ever-long reach to prevent him from being arrested.
Tony Khan doesn't even have the reach to have Fulham assign some proper players for their soccer team. So I don't know what kind of reach Tony Khan actually has here.
He has the reach to promote a tag match that takes place before the Jaguars game.
There you go. Nobody's watching that shit either.
Somebody's watching it. Jacksonville's
the Jaguars game. The Jaguars game. Okay.
Regardless of that, yes. So we come into this match of it being the last match on the show, and Swerve and Hangman not being allowed to leave their dressing rooms for 5 hours straight. So you're just making them more agitated, which is probably not helping. So we get to this match, and there's
it starts off. I mean, they were lowering the cage, but they started beating each other up.
Of course, Swerve didn't want to wait. Swerve didn't want to wait.
Where it almost looked like Swerve was almost going to decapitate Hangman by just like keeping him down while the cage was being lowered at that mark where the cage meets the ring. So anyway, before all that, Nana started throwing a bunch of shit in the ring too, because once the cage was down.
Also, another thing that I mentioned in the private chat, Nana, this is a very personal feud. This is not the time for dancing. Like,
it was like it just kept character, man. I get
it's the gimmick, but you're still coming out holding a coffee and doing the dance.
A bloody, violent feud. A house that I helped purchase has been burned down.
Yeah,
but you know what?
There was one moment throughout Nana's entire tenure managing Swerve that like Swerve told him to stop, and then he stopped dancing, and it was like he tweeted later. He's like, "Yeah, sorry guys, boss said no." So there was that one time. I mean, it would have been much more interesting if Donna did just come out, and Swerve and Swerve should have just turned around, and Nana's like, "No, boss, work time." No dancing.
So the staple gun made a return. The the stapling the photo of one's family spot made a turn.
Well, first of all,
Made a return.
Heyman stapling multiple staples to Swerve chest, and he's completely no selling that.
Yes,
he's just laughing in his face.
Swerve is impervious to staples.
Apparently,
staples do not affect Swerve.
But apparently, if you add a photograph of your family, the staples do be effective. Hence why Hangman's no pain.
Yes. Yeah, it's emotional damage.
It's
not
emotional damage.
Staples actually hurt a lot more when there's something underneath them. Like to the human body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at one point, they're fighting for a while, and Swerve has Hangman has a bag, and he pulls out a burned wooden stake of the house and tries to stab Swerve in the face.
Because he's Dracula.
Because he's a vampire, right? His teeth gave away that he looks like he's about to suck your blood. So therefore, Hangman had to slay the beast.
Yes. So Swerve fought it off and used the wooden stake himself.
It started
on the top of Hangman's head.
Right. We should also point out that Hangman realized in the match that he could not do the buckshot lariat because of the cage touching the ropes. And so what happened was, I think Swerve at one point flipped over the referee in order to do a buckshot lariat on Hangman.
Yes. At some point during the match, they introduced a cinder block. And a move that we don't see very often by anyone, let alone in an unsanctioned match being promoted, is a vertebreaker. Now, guys, what if I told you that the move that you should be doing on top of a cinder block was a vertebreaker? What would your first reaction be?
I'd be like, are you fucking crazy?
Slightly better than a burning hammer on top of a cinder block, but yeah, I would not want to take it.
Well, regardless of that, that was actually the best move of the match because it was the most safest one. Because Hangman's body did not one bit. And as I experienced technical issues once again, we were doing so well when I had the restart.
Yeah, we're almost. This is the last match coming up to the end here. We can still hear you, but I guess to continue, yes, the cinder block, the vertebreaker looked really nasty. And then they did a close up of the marks that were left on Hangman's back, and we were wondering, oh my god, what if he actually broke his back or something, or he landed on his head? Later on, Hangman turned around and actually powerbombed, I think, Swerve onto the cinder block.
Yes.
And I'm
directly onto the cinder block.
Yeah.
Directly.
Actually, when the cinder block first came out, I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do a spot where the cinder block breaks. I'm like, how the heck are they gonna what the heck would they have to do to break the cinder block? You need to introduce like another cinder block just to break the first cinder block. But that didn't happen, thankfully.
Yes.
There was barbed wire. Hangman wrapped barbed wire around his arm in order to clothesline Swerve with the arm.
I'm very sorry, everybody. So, can everybody hear me?
I am hearing you right now. Yes.
Yes.
But if you are like having on the fritz again, I can continue with Tanner. Okay, you're back. But yeah, as I was saying, there was barbed wire.
Why did this?
Can you hear us? Mic check. 1 2 1 2.
No, I think he's gone again. But in order to continue, because we are recording.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, barbed wire around
arm. Fine. I hope that I'm the one doing the recording.
Maybe next time, you know what? Next time I will initiate the recording. But yeah, okay, he's popped out. That's fine. So he'll be back. Mike will be back with us probably, hopefully shortly. But yeah,
Mhm.
barbed wire around Hangman's arm, clothesline swerve. What else? Swerve stomp through the table on the
Mhm.
Hangman. That was gnarly. A
Mhm.
couple of house call kicks.
Yes.
And then I think at some point, no, the referee didn't take a bump in this match, but yeah, at some point, I think Hangman got the upper hand somehow. I can't remember how. And he got the chair, and he started like
Yes.
Using the edge of the chair on the Swerve's head. Swerve is like down. Basically, Swerve's. I don't know if Nana was like telling his man to stay down, or I don't think he would. Hangman is like, stay down, or like, I don't know, I'm gonna kill you or something like that. I don't know. But Swerve is just like defiant. He's just like giving up 2 fingers like this, and just like he just completely collapses.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what else happened in between this, but I want to get to the last segment of how this match ended, because
Yes.
we should probably start
Let's talk
closing
about
this.
the finish.
Yeah. So the bag of tricks that Hangman brought out earlier, he had brought out the burnt steak and like, probably some other things, but he then pulls out a syringe. So when I say syringe, people, I mean a medical syringe you used to get like a tetanus shot, or maybe you need to draw blood, or you take your COVID shot. Those kind of syringes. He pulls out a syringe, and and he proceeds to open Swerve's mouth. First of all, he pulls his grill out of his teeth, so the grill is out, and then he proceeds to stick the syringe into Swerve's mouth and attempts to poke it through the man's cheek. And I actually thought at one point he was going to literally poke that thing right through his cheek, and I'm about to see a needle through the man's cheek. And I'm like, oh my God. And then hopefully didn't. Thankfully didn't. But still, there is a syringe in Swerve's mouth. I guess it's poking through his lip. And then at that point, Hangman Page picks up the chair that he had been ramming into Swerve's head repeatedly several times, and then does the most gnarliest head chair shot I've seen since Cody Rhodes took that chair shot 5 years ago. So creatively, the AEW camera panned out to the far camera as soon as Hangman hit Swerve in the head with the chair.
Yes.
So we didn't see the big impact.
There has been multiple reports out about this chair shot specifically, that AEW has gone out of their way to figure a way to do this the safest way possible. And I know, okay, now I understand any chair shot to the head is bad, but I think the chair was gimmicked enough to the point where obviously it's not going to be a frequent occurrence. It's just a thing that they did once in a blue moon that isn't going to happen again for a long time. And
I feel like I'm pretty sure that was the only chair that was in the cage, because I don't remember them throwing a bunch of chairs in there. They might have, but if they had to do that, then Swerve would have to really, the guys would have to really remember which was the gimmick chair.
Yes,
and I
notice
think it was just one chair, because
notice how the seat broke off immediately.
I did.
Well,
I also noticed that earlier that Swerve had hit Hangman in the back several times, likely with the same chair. So maybe that was a way to sort of like loosen up the rotation.
According to reports, AEW has gone majorly like precautious about these types of spots and shave down these chairs as much as they can, and to make them the lightest they possibly can so the impact is not as bad as a regular chair shot to the head would be. I'm not saying that excuses chair shots to the head. I'm just saying that they're doing the best they can to justify doing it, but not doing it frequently.
Sure. My rebuttal to that would be, you wouldn't have to justify doing it if you didn't do it.
Of course.
Know what I mean?
Of course. And that is a valid argument. And I'm not
Yeah.
complaining, and I'm not going to say that it isn't.
Sure. It to the uninitiated, to the uneducated, if you saw that, you saw a man swing a chair and crush another man in the head, and it sounded like a gunshot blast. That's how loud it was in the arena when that contact was made. Sure, I applaud them for at least having the forethought. We should make this as safe as humanly possible. If this is what we're wanting to do, you could have done any number of other things, right?
Sorry, finish your
go
point.
ahead. I was just going to say, the the needle.
See, the needle is the one thing. The needle is the one thing that I cannot justify. I can't. We have not really seen needles at the forefront of mainstream wrestling. It's something that happens on the indies more frequently, but I don't think in the indies that we watch specifically. But yeah, I can't justify the needle. It wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, the needle seems so out of place. I mean, you already had the burnt, charred piece of wood. You had a bunch of things alluding to the burnt house. Like there was a cinder block involved. The match ended with a knockout blow to the head with a chair shot. I mean, that was as definitive as an ending as you could have. The needle was. What was the purpose of the needle? What was it alluding to?
If I really tried to sit here and rationalize it, it would be so that Hangman would drug Swerve to the degree to which he was defenseless, to where he would fully accept a chair shot to the head without defending himself.
Also,
however, that's not how drugs work.
No,
drugs don't work like that.
Yeah, the circulation is not in your mouth through your lip; it's in your veins, right? So I'm like, you might as well.
There's also an onset period, where it would take.
So you need at least a 5-minute period for the drugs to kick in.
I wasn't under the impression that he was injecting something. I was
I think he was just trying to stab the guy.
Just trying to cause more pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Why else would you bring out a hypodermic needle? If he wanted to stab him, just take a knife out, and then people would really freak out.
Yes.
Or a gun. Why not just pull a gun out at this point?
Yeah, let's just.
I think we just crossed the.
So of course, there has been a lot of discourse on the internet, as there is for most things, but specifically about this. And I think a lot of old school people are arguing that they've seen a lot worse because they've seen Terry Funk matches and they've seen I
think the point that Mike might be trying to make, I think he may have frozen there, but there is a fan base within wrestling community circles, particularly of older hardcore fans, that this might not be as hardcore, or I saw worse in ECW, or whatever it might.
I was making the point of old school Terry Funk stuff and Onita stuff and stuff like that didn't even compare. So I get it. I still can't justify the needle spot.
Right. I mean, at no point did Terry Funk drug Ric Flair unconsensually during an I Quit match.
No.
But yeah, in any event, I think this has been the definitive ending to the Swerve-Hangman rivalry for now. Swerve was written off television for obvious reasons. He's probably concussed, storyline concussed, but still, he is. I'm not expecting him to be back for a while. Hangman seems more unhinged than ever on Dynamite. He was just attacking random ass people. He attacked the guy I'm like in the back. I don't even know who it was. And then he got in the face of Jeff Jarrett. And then I'm like, okay, hey, if Jeff Jarrett needs to have a retirement match, probably Hangman would be a person to retire. That's an opinion.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah,
I think that's an interesting turn of the feud here. You know, the modern day cowboy versus the old
Last
outlaw
outlaw,
from yesteryear.
yeah.
Yeah, let's retire Jeff Jarrett. How about that?
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but
Alan.
let's give him a dignified retirement. You know.
No, yeah, maybe Hangman will come to the ring with a bag of cocaine and he'll force that upon.
Let's hope that
Jarrett.
Nobody gets drugged and
Yeah.
that nobody gets seriously hurt. I don't want Jeff Jarrett to get hurt. I just don't want to see him on my screen anymore.
Alan, I believe I asked a favor of you to earmark a point that you had made. Could you please reiterate that point?
Okay, I believe it was about the house.
I think more specifically, I think it's the fact that all of these things have happened. Hangman wins the match, of course, in the backdrop of his house being broken into, him burning Swerve's house down, Hangman moving his family into a new home.
Yep.
All
buying
of
a
the
house,
things that they've
buying his old home.
All of the things that they've done
to
each other over months.
Yeah.
We have this no liability stipulation, this unsanctioned match.
Yep.
Right? Hangman, upon winning this match, walks up the ramp. He then thinks about going back to assault Swerve further, and then decides, nope, I've had enough. I shall celebrate on the ramp. So he yells out some cowboy yell and raises his arm in the air.
Yeah, looks like a lunatic. Yeah.
all of this to point out and I think Mike implied this earlier as well. This match is not on the books. What is this all for? Why did we do this? I appreciate
Let's remember the rules of lights out unsanctioned matches. The win doesn't count. So Swerve is still 2-0 in this feud. Basically.
Swerve didn't. He's still winning this thing. Hangman didn't get his full revenge.
I think it's implied.
It's an implication.
I think it's implied that his revenge was hurting him.
In pro wrestling, the best way to hurt somebody is to beat them.
Well, there are apparently now.
Yeah, when it counts.
When you shove a syringe into somebody's mouth and then break a chair over their head, at that point, it's like you really need a win. I mean,
that's how real winners do it.
I think it's like, hearts and minds of the folks,
and I think
the win is there.
To put a cap on this, just to make another point that is kind of annoying. We had the same exact reasoning for result in the first match and the last match. So yeah. That was AEW All Out. And I think, and I said this at the top of the show, I think that this is in contention for show of the year. Is it better than Revolution? I don't know. I would have to really think about that. But this was, as far as wrestling goes, pure just wrestling, except for that main event.
Don't let my negativity around the main event cloud thoughts and feelings of the listener here. This is, of course, as Mike said, from top to bottom. If you are I wouldn't say a casual fan. I would say if you are already a pro wrestling fan, or you're deep into pro wrestling, like if you're watching GCW, like Mike and Alan do, you'd probably enjoy a lot of the elements of the show. I think the wrestling quality is quite high. Is it one of the best shows that I've ever seen? It's probably not in the top 10, but I say it's certainly one of the better shows that you'll see all year, for
Yes.
sure. Certainly one to check out, especially if you are a hardcore wrestling fan.
For sure. Alan, your closing thoughts on this show?
Yeah, it was a very solid 3 to 4 hours. Just pure wrestling matches. I did appreciate at the end they inserted some major storyline development, and at least in the world title picture,
Yes.
and very interested in where that spins off into. But
Yep.
overall, a pretty solid show. Like, I started writing some possible match of the year candidates for our year-end review. So
Yep.
I've got maybe at least 3 of the matches that happen on All Out in that list right now. So
Yeah, I
so
started.
my list is more based on like what I felt were like major storyline developments, or like they told a good story, and that's how I based my match of the years for this year. So
I started doing my list in June. Obviously, I'm going to need to update it, but yeah, I think that wrestling as a whole is really on a high right now, and no matter what wrestling you enjoy, I think there is something for everybody. And if you don't enjoy AEW, don't watch AEW. But also, if you don't watch AEW, don't treat everybody who does like garbage.
yeah, and I just want to say, like, if you don't watch AEW, like, I'm free. I'm more than welcome to plug other shows. In fact, I like to, like, as kind of like my final thought, or just something I want to promote. And this is not from me. October 19th and 20th, the newly formed Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, or if you want to consider this as a rebirth, is it's Scott D'Amore's company. He bought the rights for Maple Leaf Wrestling, an old territory from the 80s, and he's rebranded it. And their first show, Forged in Excellence, is going to take place on the weekend of October 19th and 20th on Triller Plus. What one main highlight match is going to be, as we mentioned, Konosuke Takeshita will be facing the former TNA World Champion Josh Alexander. Speaking
The
of
Scott D'Amore poster boy versus Takeshita.
Sure. Another big match apparently is, since you brought Scott D'Amore back into this, is Scott D'Amore's partner Giselle Shaw will be facing Athena, the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion.
Yes.
Other wrestlers scheduled to be on this card look like Mike Bailey, Kylie Ray, El Phantasmo, Kushida, Alex Zane. Who else did I hear was popping up? I don't know. I have to take a look at the.
But
it's gonna be a good show. It's a Canadian,
card.
Canadian-based company. They're gonna do it. The show's gonna be live in Windsor, Ontario, St. Clair College. Hopefully one day they'll be able to play Maple Leaf Gardens, because that's their namesake. So it's much easier for me to get there than where they used to host Toronto shows at, like, for TNA, for example. But yeah, that's want to plug that interesting show that's coming up. I mean, in between there's like Bound for Glory in later October, but I don't know what the next WWE. There's also WWE Bad Blood, but we're still waiting to see what else.
I have a bone to pick with Impact TNA.
Uh-oh. Do you want to do a whole show about that, or do you want to?
No, I'm just going to make a point here in closing.
Okay.
Why is JBL on their show?
Okay, so I found that very curious. I'm like, I don't hate it. I'm like, I was like, when he did that spot knocking out Myers and Edwards, I was like, during the main event, I'm like, oh God, please tell me he's gonna don't. He looked like he slipped for a moment. I'm like, oh, okay, please be careful. You're a 50, 60-year-old, 50 plus 60 something year old man. I don't want you like pulling your quads or some bullshit like that.
So, in closing, just as we say every show, watch the wrestling that you want to watch, not the wrestling that everybody tells you to watch. Enjoy what you want to enjoy is basically what that means. And don't give somebody shit for liking the thing that you don't like. And make sure to go to our link tree, as I say every episode, where Linktree/Going Over Big Time Podcast, where you can get everything, every way to watch/listen to the show, as well as social medias for everybody and the podcast itself. So that is going to do it for me. Tanner, what do you have going on?
Right now, I'm retweeting a bunch of political stuff. So if that annoys you, feel free to miss out on it. I really
Thanks
don't
for the
care what
heads
your
up.
thoughts are.
I am going to peruse your account right now and see what you will say.
And possibly look out for the politics podcast featuring Tanner and Alan.
Oh yeah,
Why
that might be
not?
something.
Like, let's see if we can bring in special guests. Like, I don't know, Tanner. Maybe you like Representative Jasmine Crockett to come on, or perhaps
Yeah,
Senate candidate Colin Aldred. I don't know.
Representative
I don't know. Do you want
James
to,
Tallarico,
want-
who's from my hometown. He's been getting a lot of
yeah,
airtime
you
recently.
seem to be a bit of a Tallarico stand there for a bit. I don't know.
I'll tell you.
Maybe we should end this episode now, and then we can discuss it later.
Before this gets very political, I think it's time to close the show. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us, and we will see you next time.